What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Emilio in Tennessee. We got Tim in Green Bay. We got Jacob in Wisconsin here to talk some Packers, talk some draft as we are closing in. It is April the 8th. And boy, oh boy, the draft has snuck up on us. It was so cool this morning listening to Ross Tucker talk to Greg Cosell about some more prospects. And he's like, yeah, we're just a couple weeks away here, Greg. And it hit me. I was like, man, we made it, boys. We made it to the draft. I'm excited about it. How's everybody doing?
Great.
Good.
Beautiful day.
Yeah. Tim, second.
That was very, very, you put some emphasis on it. Good.
Yeah. I'm jealous because I'm looking at all your guys' new Packer gear. Look at Clayton's duds. Look at Tim with the cool black shirt. I got a cool one from Walmart.
I'm definitely hitting the Walmart when we go up there, Clay, and I'm picking up absolutely every item out of their Walmarts.
Y'all even got Walmarts up there, Tim?
Yeah, there's a couple.
All right.
Yeah, I bought bags of mulch there on the way home so that the ride wasn't so rough in the work truck.
Drove the work truck 13 hours up to Green Bay, Wisconsin. You got to love it, man.
Dude.
If you're a redneck, you're in the right place tonight. Welcome into Packers Total Access.
Let's go.
Let's lead this party off with the actually, Tim, what do you got there? What are you about to share on the screen, Timothy? What do we have here, sir?
Well, I took a little trip to 1265 today. I don't know if that's a good
I see it back there.
Can you see it? So the draft stage is getting set up. We've got fencing all around the Curly and Vince statue there.
There you go, Emilio. You wanted the wall. They built it, bub.
So like the pro shop is really tough to get to right now. You got to come in from the west side. They're starting to put all the fencing up here.
Mm-hmm.
And stop by Kroll's for a butter burger. I had to. So it's getting close here. It's getting close, boys. It's getting real close.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. It's going to be an absolute blast for sure. So let's get things kicked off with the Patreon group and the questions there. That sound good to you guys? We'll knock that out real quick and see what's going on, what's crack-a-lacking over there. As we had a few questions asked here. Chris G in the Patreon group. And again, if you guys want to join the Patreon, scan the QR code in the upper right or just go to patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access. Get your questions read. Just another perk to being a $3 member over there. Chris G says, based on expiring contracts, what positions do you foresee being a top need for next year's draft? Do you think Goop might draft thinking 1 year ahead? For instance, with Quay's rookie deal ending, linebacker might be a higher priority than what the draft media is saying. Completely agree, Chris. I think you're spot on with that, man. I think what you've got to look at is what players do you plan on bringing back who are set to be free agents next year? And then you want to look to try to fill that void this year if you can. That way they get 1 year under their belt and ready to step into a potential starting role. Now, Spot Track's a little bit wonky right now. It's showing multiples on here, but I'll try to give you guys an idea of who's up. Obviously, Quay Walker will be a free agent next year unless they pick up the club option, what we refer to as the fifth-year option. Devontae Wyatt is set to be a free agent unless they pick up the club option or re-sign him, and they could re-sign Quay as well. Who knows? Christian Watson is set to be a free agent. Mecole Hardman obviously will be. Malik Willis is set to be a free agent, and for the people that are rolling their eyes about potentially drafting a quarterback, Sean Ryan is set to be a free agent. That's another reason why we're looking at potential offensive linemen in this draft here. Christian Welch, they just signed. He'll be a free agent. Zane Anderson, safety. Let's see who else here on the list. There's a couple. Romeo Dobbs is set to be a free agent. So I think there's a decent chance they let Rome walk, which is why wide receivers being talked about so much this year,
I just caught the ball.
If they let one of those two receivers walk next year, you're talking about trying to replace a starter, So that's why he's taking a good look at Emeka Egbuka. That's why he's taking a good look at Matthew Golden and Isaiah Bond and some of these receivers that have scheduled top 30 visits, because they'll probably draft at least one receiver in this draft. I don't doubt it one bit, especially guys with Christian Watson being out. And that's why we've spearheaded that whole talking a point of, hey, let's look to draft a receiver, not necessarily in the first round, but just however the draft board may fall. You guys got any comments on that there in terms of, I like what he's saying here, man. You want to think 1 year ahead and fill those voids now That way you're not asking a rookie to play a bigger role than they're capable of playing.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that also can kind of apply to tight end too, right? We have Tucker Kraft in there, and I mean, we kind of already have a need to fill there. If Musgrave isn't it, who's the third? You know, we need to bring in a little bit of depth. But I do like that. I think that, you know, you kind of always have to be looking ahead. That's what they're talking about on the GM shuffle. It's like, you know, as a GM, the amount of hours you're putting in and everything like that, you're not worried about. I mean, yeah, you're worried about the next day, but you're also looking 5 years ahead, 6 years ahead. Even if you might not be there for that time, you got to plan ahead, or else, I mean, you're going to back yourself into a corner.
Yeah. As H.E. Solder says here, none of the guys that were just listed are absolutely critical. Nice to have for sure. Devontae Wyatt was your most consistent interior pass rusher this past year. Quay Walker was your mock. As much as we love Edgerrin Cooper, he has not played mock yet. He has not wore the green dot. Christian Watson, not saying he's not critical. Like, you see how our offense changed when he's not on the field. Malik Willis,
best guy around.
Having a backup quarterback that can come in and win 2 games for you, that's not critical.
Right.
Pretty much everybody we listed off. Romeo Dobbs.
Yeah.
Like, to pretend Romeo Dobbs is not critical to this team. Like, if he's not,
I just caught the ball.
if he's not on the football team, who's making those third down plays? Because everybody in Packerland absolutely hates the Dontavion Wicks all of a sudden, right? Like, who's he going to be? So
not everybody. We don't hate Tay Wicks, right?
And yeah, there was definitely a good bit of sarcasm there, obviously, but yeah, it's again, do I think all of them were critical? No, but you're talking about multiple starters, and it's just amazing how people think that this offense sucked. Well, we need to replace them anyway. We were, what did we say, fourth in the league in passing yards per pass attempt last year. Like, to me, that's the metric that determines how good a passing game is. Like, so I don't know. Any other thoughts on that before we move along to the next question here?
No.
Good. All right. Good. Cool. All right, let's move along to the next question. Jerry Weiss-Corbley says, Clayton, you explain things very well to novice like me. I'm a novice too, so this is the blind leading the blind here. And I wanted to know the definition of a 3-tech, which you talk about a lot, and a 1-tech, which I've also heard. So let's drop this down real quick. And yeah, we got the graphic. Go ahead, Tim, pop that up there, and let's start to explain it here. So when we're talking about tech, look at the numbers at the top of the screen here. So you've got the positions, right? Tackle, guard, center, guard, tackle, Y, the Y being the attached tight end. You'll notice on the bottom on the bottom of the screen, the red arrows are the gaps. When you're talking gaps, A gap, B gap, typically that's an offensive term, right? I mean, it's pretty universal, both offense and defense. But what you're describing is the A gap being in between the centers and the center and the guards, the B gap being in between the guards and the tackles, and then the C gap being on the outside shoulder of the tackles, even the D gap on the outside shoulder of the tight end. Now, with that being said, from the defense's perspective, when you're talking technique, you're talking about what position these players, these defensive linemen or edge rushers are lining up in. So the easiest way to determine this is, if they're lining directly across, I mean center mass on an offensive lineman, they're even numbers, okay? So if you're directly over the center, that's what we call 0-tech or nose, okay? So that's a 0. If you're lined up over one of the 2 guards directly over them, that's a 2-tech. Over top of the tackles is a 4-tech. Over top of the tight end is a 6-tech. Now, the numbers in between those gaps, or the outside shoulders of each offensive lineman, are odd numbers. So if you're on the outside shoulder of the center on either side, that's a 1-tech. Outside shoulder of the guard, that's a 3-tech. Outside shoulder of the tackle, that's a 5-tech. Outside shoulder of the tight end is what we refer to as a 7-tech. Now, sometimes the 7-tech and the 9-tech will get kind of mixed in. If they're lining up outside of the Y, you'll hear a lot of people get lazy and just say, well, that's a wide 9 look. Right. And in most cases, I can understand why they would look at it that way. So that's how that lines up there. Thank you for pulling that graphic up, Tim. Now, if we were to pull up what the Packers did last year, if you'll drop that graphic down there. Thank you, sir. So let's just go to the box cam here. This is a perfect example. If I can get it zoomed in a little bit more, that's about the best I can do, y'all. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's about the best we can do. So we're going to draw lines here again. They're lined up over the center, 0, 2, 4. 2, 4, right? So let's take an example here. Let's go into blue to make it a little easier. Devontae Wyatt, how's he lined up right here? He is on the inside shoulder of the tackle. That's what you refer to as a 4-eye. So if you're on the inside shoulder rather than directly across from him, you go with the 4, but you'll call it an eye, okay? Over here, you got Kenny, and this is what we talked about all last year. Many people still think he was playing 3-tech all year, and he wasn't. The majority of the time, he was playing what we refer to as 1-tech. So he's in between. I'm sorry. In this case, he is playing 3-tech. Right. This is a nickel set. If you'll notice, actually, it might even be a dime set. Yeah. So what you've got here, it looks like there's no tight end on this formation, so it's probably a 4-wide set unless the Y is flexed out. So in that case, they go a little bit wider with their fronts, like a double 4. In this case, a 4-eye, and they're going a 3-tech, which is pretty close. This is what we're talking about, a wide 9 out here, right? Wide 9 by Gary. Look how wide Gary is out here.
That's why they call him the edge, right?
Exactly. So if you were to draw this out, here you've got a 4-eye, right, over top of him, and here you got Kenny in the 3-tech. Now notice, even though he's playing 3-tech, he's closer to the center, so you would still consider him the nose tackle in this specific formation out of the dime if they're in a dime or a nickel. It's hard to tell because the DBs are off screen. So now if we go to the next screen grab here, I believe we've already looked at that one. Let's go to the second one. Now let's look at where everybody's lined up. So in this set, you're in more of a base set, it looks like, right? Because two in the backfield, and they may have been identifying this guy as a running back as well in the backfield. But notice with this split back set, remember what Matt LaFleur says. 2 backs equals 2 gaps. So now you're starting a 2 gap here, and look at what you did. You put TJ Slayton in the 1-tech, right? And now you've got Kenny in the 3-tech on this particular play, okay? So now if we go to the next screen grab, now what you're going to see is Kenny is playing that 1-tech that we keep talking about, right? Because now you're in probably a passing situation, more of that. They're using a little orbit motion here. And look at Devontae Wyatt playing the 3-tech. So to answer your question, Jerry, what you've got here is a 3-tech is basically in between the guard and the tackle, typically on the outside shoulder of the guard. And the reason that's important, because look at Gary over here, right? And they've got a tight end as well. So Gary's in that wide look. He's in a 7 look, right? It'd be real easy for this tight end to chip and the tackle come out and kick, right? Well, if you do that, and you've got a true pass rushing 3-tech, guess what happens? This guard is on an island, right? As where with Kenny, this is what they did strategically last year with Kenny on pass rushing downs, is they put him in the 1-tech to force them to double team Kenny. And you would see so many times, if you go back and watch Chalk Talk from last year, what we call touch spy, that's what we're referring to. Kenny would literally engage with the double team and not even try to rush the quarterback. And he just kind of hold his ground, look for the run in case they run a draw. And then if the quarterback goes to scramble, bust out and make the tackle. So, again, the goal is to try to force your best pass rushers. In this case, Rashawn Gary is the best pass rusher and Devontae Wyatt's your best interior pass rusher. You're forcing one-on-ones in that situation there. That's the whole goal. So, it's just trying to put your best players in a position to be successful there. And that's why it's important to have an edge opposite of Rashawn Gary while they're trying to chip with a tight end and put a tackle on there as well, and then they're going to release and it turns into a one-on-one. You got a one-on-one here. Imagine if you got a dog out here, which LVN really turned it on at the end of the year. He's always going to be singled up on this cat right here, right? So does that all make sense, guys? Did I explain that correctly there in terms of the 3-tech, all that good stuff?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was going to say that a lot of information there. Just adding to that, when you're talking about kicking out on Rashawn there with the tackle and the tight end, given that 3, yes, thank you, Rashawn. You're about to eat. Given where that 3-tech is, looking at the guard, he's already looking back, trying to get that, just for the pistol shotgun. He's looking back to tap the center. You get another jump on that. I mean, you're in the backfield, so it's why you got to have someone that needs respect on the outside and someone that can disrupt on the inside.
Absolutely. Now, here's a great question by Greg Rice. He says, if the 3-tech becomes a problem, doesn't the center help? He can, but look how much more difficult it is for him. If we're rushing outside shoulder of the guard, look how far he's got to reach over. Typically what you end up doing, if they try to double up the center and the guard with the 3-tech, if the 3-tech is not crashing in, if he's working the outside shoulder, you're just washing the center completely out of the play. But if they do that, guess what happens? You got Kenny Clark in a one-on-one situation, and that boy going to eat.
Yep.
So
that's what we talk about all the time. You can't double team everybody, right?
Exactly right. And that's why it's important to have 4 good rushers. However, last year with everybody getting acclimated to the system, and everybody wants blitz heavy and man coverage and this and that. Hafley said, you know what? If they're going to double Kenny, let's do a touch spy with him. We're winning the hat count +1 there because he's going to occupy a double team. And now if they chip Gary, Devontae, you got to go win your matchup. And by the way, Devontae Wyatt ended up, 5 or 6 sacks at the interior position with limited snaps too, because they did that heavy rotation. And I think people are going to be surprised if we get a chance, if we have time tonight to get to the defensive tackle talk. We're going to look at the defensive tackle room. Everybody acts like the Packers sucked at sacking the quarterback last year. They were 8th in the league at sacks, by the way, which is amazing. Like it's like, what are we even talking about here? So, yeah, and okay, great. I'm glad you're in here, Jerry. Thank you for the question. You guys are going to screw up asking those questions with me because I'm a nerd with this stuff. I love talking X's and O's. I remember when we first started doing the podcast, I told Ryan, I said, boy, a listener screwed up. They sent me an email asking if I could break down a play. And I'm like, I will waste so much time on this podcast. X's and O's, man. This is what I love. And I was trying to keep it off the pod because I didn't feel like people wanted to talk about that stuff. So, but anyway, there you go. There's a little mini chalk talk.
Question for you real quick, Clay.
Question.
Greg Rice was wondering, he says, I need a copy of this chart. Is there a way that we could attach a chart either like this or this one exactly?
We can put it in the Patreon group, Jacob.
I was going to say that, Emilio, but I was also going to suggest that maybe for people that were consider themselves novices or even people that just want to have more of like a good base of knowledge, if we could find even stuff like route trees, spacings, different maybe terminology, kind of like when you get to the end of keep your eye off the ball kind of thing, or keep your eye on the ball. Maybe just something that was more of like a conglomerate of like a thesaurus type dictionary encyclopedia of certain terminologies and common schemes. I thought that'd be cool.
Yeah, we could probably put something like that together, I'm sure. And the best thing is people to ask questions, and then we can zero in on what they don't. Because, some people may already know that information. There may be more people that we don't realize don't know that information. And unless someone asks like Jerry, then we're kind of, you know what I mean? It's every people are so scared to ask questions because and I'm just being honest here, man, most podcasters, if they don't know, their immediate defense is, okay, I'm going to act like I know and just brush that to the side so I don't get asked again. Yep. And on this particular show, what we try to do is our goal is let's all learn together. There's a ton of stuff I don't know. So if you guys have got a question, I don't know the answer, we're going to find it together. That's essentially how we try to approach it. So Greg Rice asked a question in here. Let me see here.
It was about Kenny.
Yeah, right here. Please explain why if Kenny gets doubled a lot, why doesn't he get sacks when not doubled? He's not getting.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
He's not getting as many sacks because he's getting doubled. First of all, right? Like you turn on the tape last year, you're not going to see a whole lot of opportunities for Kenny Clark just rushing in a one-on-one situation. And it all comes down to down and distance too. And you got to look at the way the scheme adjusted. We were second in run defense last year in yards per carry allowed. We averaged 4.0 yards per carry allowed last year. That was second best in the entire National Football League. There's a reason that. And again, while everybody was bitching and moaning about Rashawn Gary's overrated, he's overpaid, and Kenny Clark and this and that, I'm sitting back going, boys, we're stopping the run. This is we've been begging for this, right?
Yep.
Again, it's just the answer is an answer no one wants to hear as a fan. You can take one thing away, but you can't take everything away. You can choose to press man at the line of scrimmage. Oh yeah, boy, and it's pretty. You can lock them up and tie them up for a second. But what's the downfall to that? Go back and watch Keyshawn Nixon get cooked against the Giants 2 years ago with the game on the line. Everybody wanted press. We put the nickel in press, and he gets his lunch ate. They get a huge gain, and all anybody talks about is Joe Barry plays off the ball too much. It's like with the game on the line, he trusted his guys to play press. Now, if you ain't got the dogs to do it, you've got to adjust, right? Yeah. Let's see here. H.E. Soder said they got a bunch of sacks in 2024, not as much in big games. See, this is what I'm talking about. All I heard last year was we'll take the Titans game out of it. Okay. So now we're going to take away the best performances to try to prove. How does that make sense? That's like saying Mark McGuire didn't hit the ball worth a damn in 1998 if you take all the homers away. What are we talking about? Like, you're going to have big games like that. And again, Emilio, we were there in the stands in Nashville. Yep. You could tell, jump up to an early lead, Hafley went, let's turn the dogs loose.
Right.
When they turned the dogs loose, they got after the quarterback. But the problem with that is if you're playing in a game where it's a one-score game or it's tied, what's going to happen? They're going to run the ball on you as you're rushing right upfield. Go back and watch the guy I like to refer to as Danny DeVito, Mr. Tommy DeVito. Watch watch him turn into Mike Vick because we're rushing straight up the field on the outside edges.
Right.
Remember that? So, again, it's not a sexy answer, but you can take something away. But as you're taking that away, you're giving something else up. And I think Hafley did a great job balancing that. I mean, to me, the stats, you finished 8th in sacks, but you finished 2nd in yards per carry allowed in the running game. That's a pretty good balance, in my opinion.
Right.
So,
and to the point of Kenny not getting sacks when, being doubled going into being singled, I mean, you still got to beat your dude across from you, right? I mean, if you're getting doubled, 30, 40%, whatever it is, then you got to go. Then you still have to beat your solo, rush. It's not like you have 10 seconds to get there. You got to do it in 3 seconds. So, I mean, he's going to have, the numbers might not be there, but it's not like he's not performing.
right.
Yep.
Paul Smith in the chat says, morning from, I hope I'm saying this right, Shenzhen. Is that right? Shenzhen?
Yep.
China. Keep breaking down the plays, Clayton, worth the time. Hey, man, thanks for tuning in from China. That's absolutely
awesome.
Way on the other side of the world. I love it.
Pretty cool.
You got to add it to the banner here.
There you go. That was
that was a guy from Argentina.
Well, I got you. You keep adding to it. We're going to put together an interactive map if we can, and we'll have every location where we know. I mean, we got people in Australia, we got people in Germany. It's really, really cool to see the show kind of take.
You got Omer in France,
Absolutely.
Daryl in Alaska.
Yeah.
All right. So
you got AFAM, the Chiefs fan hanging out.
In case
it's not been a complete show if Tim hasn't taken a shot at AFAM. All right, and then Jerry Watts Corbett said, have you listened to the Chris Sims podcast ranking draft prospects by position? Highly recommend and love that he was an NFL quarterback and relies on tape almost exclusively. He just ranked Shamar Stewart as the number 2 edge in the draft, and he loves wide receiver Trey Williams. I don't know who Trey is. Might have been that K Williams guy. Where it's QUE is what he goes by. Anyway, which he said is the 5th best in the draft. You have Williams quite low. She might be talking about, who was that other guy we talked about last night? Wide receiver that's really low on our board that everybody loves. Can't remember his name. But anyway, Shamar Stewart at number 2 edge, he's our number 2 edge too, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly. So that definitely lines up with where we got Shamar Stewart. And Shamar Stewart's that's one of those dudes that, boy, he's either going to be a dog or it's going to take 3 or 4 years to get him to be able to rush the quarterback. So anything you guys want to add to those questions, comments there in the Patreon group before we move along here?
Wondering if Jerry's talking about Kyle Williams.
That's what I
was rolling through the names trying to figure it out.
That's probably who she was talking about. Yeah, Kyle Williams.
She's talking about Trey Harris. Okay.
Oh, Trey Harris. Gotcha. Yeah, Trey Harris. Yeah, Trey Harris on our board is right there with Jaden Higgins. So we got them grouped right together as second-round talents. Now, listen, it doesn't mean they won't go in the first round,
Right.
If they do, boy, that's going to be really interesting. You're talking about shaking up the draft. If those 2 guys slip up into the first round somehow, some way, my goodness. But, yeah, Trey Harris we're real big on, Jerry. Really good against man coverage, actually better than anyone else against man coverage of all the receivers coming out, and had really good hands too, if I remember correctly. So you guys can check that out. You're in the Patreon group, Jerry. If you'll go to the collections tab, you'll see all of our different articles we put together. If you look at, there's a wide receiver breakdown. There should be a wide receiver file there. We actually ran it down, the order of all the players at the time on our board, and then the wide receivers. And then off to the right, we had like our drop percentage, I believe it was. And then we did the same breakdown against man coverage, and we narrowed it down to like 4 receivers we liked a whole lot in the entire draft, with Elijah Badger being a late round pick that's like really and that was so cool having Baz on here. You guys remember? Yeah. And I did not talk to Baz about Elijah Badger before or anything. It's like, who's the guy you like late in the draft? Elijah Badger. We all went. It was like Super Troopers. Remember we handed the pistol with him? Oh. So, all right.
Talking about shenanigans, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Thanks to everybody in the Patreon group. Appreciate that, man. That was kind of impromptu, but I love that type of conversation because it's all an opportunity for us to learn together for sure. 2-0 for this says, I hope we draft Pookie Egbuka. So
Pookie. We already got a Pookie. That's our QB1, right?
We'll have Pookie 2.0, Tim. All right. So anything else you guys want to hit on, in terms of what we were just hitting before we move on to the next topic here? Anything at all?
I think that was good.
All right, cool. Let's go. So we had a little bit of breaking news earlier. We got another top 30 visit in-house. So let's take a look at Mr. Anthony Belton, offensive tackle, out of NC. Breaking news here as the Packers reportedly schedule a top 30 visit with him. Buckets Goldenberg burning that midnight oil again.
Buckets Goldenberg putting in overtime, trying to earn that gold watch.
The Green Bay Packers have reportedly scheduled a top 30 visit with NC State offensive tackle Anthony Belton per team sources, targeting him as a potential gem in the 2025 NFL Draft. Ranked number 145 on our PTA big board, Belton brings a towering 6'6", 336-pound frame with 33.88-inch arms, offering the Packers a mix of size, power, and upside to bolster their offensive line depth and future-proof their tackle positions. Here he was, my man here. I mean, look at the feet on this kid right here. You kidding me, dude, in high school?
Oh, yeah.
That's Shaq's shoes, don't it?
Yeah, that's a size 12 or better for sure.
So I love doing these scouting reports and taking it all the way back to where it started. I don't know if you guys agree, like knowing what they did in high school. I'm a big high school football fan. I love when August rolls around, you get to kind of see what the recruiting boards are looking like. But he was a 4-star recruit. Keep in mind, some websites had him at a 5-star, but On3's collective group, what they do is take like 4 or 5 of the top sites and get an average. So a 4-star recruit from Florida State University High School in Tallahassee, Florida. That's a real thing, evidently.
That's crazy.
2 different websites had his high school listed at that, so I'm assuming it's correct. In the 2021 class, Anthony Belton arrived as a polished and physically imposing prospect at 6'6", 310 pounds. He dominated as a left tackle, blending a nasty edge and standout athleticism that shone on both sides of the ball. His senior tape featured a quick first step and a knack for burying defenders, earning him all-state honors. Ranked number 62 among Florida prospects by 24/7 Sports, Belton committed to NC State over offers from Louisville, Indiana, and UCF. Viewed as a high-ceiling talent with pro potential. So we move on to college. Look who he's blocking right here, boys.
Oh, boy.
Well, there's a guy.
So college statistics, Belton's 4-year stint at NC State reflects a strong trajectory after a quiet start. In 2021, he played in just 2 games, seeing limited action as a reserve. In 22, he secured the starting left tackle role, logging all 13 games with 624 snaps. By 2023, he started all 12 games, earning all ACC honorable mention. His 2024 campaign was his finest, playing in all 13 games, including the bowl game, with 12 starts and 450 pass blocking snaps. Career totals, 37 starts under his belt, boys, with 2,100 snaps at left tackle. So this is a guy that might
– Mr. Reliable right there.
Yeah.
Dude, he's making James Pierce Jr. look like a child in this photo. I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, McCall over here, he knows James Pierce Jr. about to smack him in the spine, though, because he's got that speed, no doubt. But, yeah, I thought that was a really cool image there of him working against one of the better edge rushers. So here's what we got PFF-wise, guys. Starting in 21, obviously minimal snaps, but a 74.8. In 22, he fell to a 64.2. 23, he improved to a 65.9. And then in 2024, he jumps all the way up to a 73.6. The key statistic here, being a left tackle, pass blocking grade, 87.3. It's hard to get much better than that right there. So, and these snap spot positions kind of made me wonder what was going on. As you can see here, two snaps in the slot and 3 out wide. What is that about? What did they run a little chicanery out there? Could you imagine a corner having a 6'6", 330-pound tackle line up across from you for a couple of games? Yeah, it probably was something like that, right?
No, it's crazy.
Go ahead, Jake.
No, I just I'm wondering, and maybe you're gonna hit this as far as his size, but Mr. Soder again chimed in and said that the Belton size is way outside of the Packers O-line norms. I thought that this was right within their norms, wasn't it? We did a practice where it was 6'4" to 6'6".
I will read off the Packers offensive line. You want to hear a wall? 6'6", 325, 6'5", 325, 6'5", 310, 6'5", 310, 6'4", 305.
And which one of those is your boy Travis Glover?
My boy Travis Glover sits at 6'6", 317. Tim, he didn't even make the list. He was breaking the charts.
Wow.
it's funny to hear, like, it's threshold season right now, and we talk a little thresholds, but there are some people, and I won't say any names, and they're on particular podcasts too. They get obsessed with that stuff, absolutely obsessed with it. Yeah. And it's funny that it's always, the Packers would never take them until they take them, and then crickets. You don't see them running the loss lap back across Twitter going, "Hey guys, I was wrong on that." You just never hear about it again. So, listen, there's a sweet spot. Everybody knows it across the entire NFL. 6'4" is typically that. Nothing shorter than 6'4". The taller, the better. And in terms of arms, 33 inches is what you're shooting for. If you're left 33, doesn't mean you can't play tackle, but most of the time the Packers try to kick those guys inside. It's people, and I'm not saying Solder's doing this. I'm just saying those people, it's their opportunity to say, "I'm smarter than you at this." It's just, it drives me crazy. It drives me absolutely crazy. It's one of the reasons why me and old, to remain nameless, got into it as soon as I signed up, because he was just constantly dogging fans. "I do this for a living," and blah, blah, blah. It's like,
but didn't you know that he did it for a living?
Doing a live stream and talk X's and O's with me, I would love that opportunity. So, what'd you say, Emilio?
I said, didn't you know that he did it for a living?
Yeah, exactly. So, here we go, man. Detailed scouting report entering the draft. At the combine, Belton measured 6'6", 336 pounds with 33.88-inch arms, pairing his reach with 20 bench reps. Here's the thing, too. When you see 20 reps, you go, it's a little low. Longer arms typically have lower numbers on bench
arms,
reps.
Dude. Yeah.
You got to choose with that, right? So, all right, it says 20 bench reps, a 5.26 second 40-yard dash. His 2024 tape highlights a stout pass protector, leveraging his arm length to thwart edge rushers and his bulk to anchor against power tailor-made for Green Bay's outside zone scheme. In the run game, he's a mauler, driving defenders back with leverage and finishing blocks with gusto. Is that how you say that? Gusto? How would you say it? Yes. All right. While his buckets is way above my pay grade. Yeah. Man, a lingual genius. So while his
he's a cultured guy, it's clear.
Exactly.
He's trying to get that gold watch, He's got to use good vocabulary.
While his 4.69 second shuttle showcases better than expected lateral agility for his size, primarily at left tackle, his size suggests guard flexibility, projecting him as a day 2 or early day 3 pick with starter potential. So when you look at the RAS card here, a 7.73, look at the hand size, 10 1/4. His arm length, 33.88. His height, 6'6", 336. We talked about the bench reps. His vertical jump scored a 7.54 at 29.5 inches, and a broad jump of 8.11, scoring a 7.38. And we talked about the shuttle RA. 3-cone wasn't that bad either, 7.77 for a big guy there, scoring a 6.45. So essentially what you got is your composite size grade, great, explosion grade, good, speed grade, okay, and your composite agility grade is good. So what do you guys think about him so far? And again, we've got him a little bit lower. I think the consensus big board has him in the top 100. We have him at 145, so we're a little more conservative there.
PFF's got him at 100 on the nose right now.
Yeah,
I know. That's what I was going to say. Yep. I don't know about you, Tim. Emilio, to me, this guy is screaming, "I'm a freaking Green Bay Packer." Talked about just the way that he pass blocks, that size, pretty decent athleticism for being a massive man like he is. And you look at that arm length, almost 34-inch arms. The mitts are quite large as well. I just feel like that to me, barring which, looks like we're going to cover that in just a second. I was going to say, barring any sort of red flags, but you saw the availability that he had being on the field, playing the bulk of almost any snap they asked him to have for the last 4 years. I'm telling you what, I'd be pumped, especially if they're having, like you said, where is he on the consensus big board, Clay? Where'd you say that?
We had him at 99 when I took it.
Yeah. So he's basically right around the 100 mark, but on our board, however, he is a little bit
145.
lower. 145. There you go. So,
okay.
Yeah, and the reason we're a little lower on him is probably because of the PFF grade, I would imagine. Right, Amelia? Do you have it pulled up right now, Amelia? Read that off.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, his 22, we had him at 246, 23, 212, 24, 101, and then 187 for PFF. and 33rd team had him at 97th, kind of where consensus did. I would say it's that PFF grade bringing him down.
Yeah,
or the PFF big board, sorry.
Yeah. So let's see here. Coach Lynn says Anthony Belton or Holland Pierce. Where do we have Holland Pierce on the board? That's a great question.
Dude, Holland Pierce is another massive man.
181
out of Rutgers. Yep. On 22, 261, 23, 90th, 24, 14. PFF had him at 203 on their big board. Consensus 192. Basically, it seems like kind of the same guy. Just he's 100 spots lower on each board, each consensus and PFF board.
It's so now the question is with Anthony Belton, you know, we kind of got that range somewhere around 100 to 150, somewhere in there. We would feel good about it.
Right.
What about injury and character concerns? Belton's injury slate is cleanish. A 2023 ankle tweak didn't cost him time, and he gutted out a late 2024 shoulder issue without missing a start. His 37 career starts underscore durability. Off the field, he's a locker room favorite. Gritty, selfless, and praised for his work ethic. A high school multi-sport athlete, basketball and track. You imagine that guy running track? Jeez, Pete. Belton's competitive fire burns bright with zero off-field concerns. So that checks the box. Draft projection, Anthony Belton profiles as a round 3 to 4 prospect in the 25 NFL draft, backed by his number 145 spot on our PTA big board in a deep offensive line class. His size and experience, 37 starts, make him a fit for the Packers, who could snag him in rounds 3 through 4 with their draft selections. His ceiling as a potential starter hinges on refining his agility, while his floor as a reliable swing tackle aligns with Green Bay's knack for grooming linemen like Zach Tom, a sleeper with traction as draft buzz builds. I think of Rasheed Walker with these late round guys too, man. I really do. Like, sit for a year, next thing you know, he's starting at left tackle. And it's crazy too. I can't remember who said it to open up the show, but it was like, hey, do you think that Goody's going to take a swing at a couple positions, knowing what's coming up here in the future? We've talked about Rasheed Walker. His contract's going to be coming up. Do you sign him to top tackle money, or do you just go ahead and draft his replacement? You know, we've mentioned maybe Jordan Morgan kicking over there, but the reality is Jordan Morgan's arms are 32 inches, right? So a little bit short of what you want. Probably better suits a guard position. But, I don't know. Any other thoughts on him? Let's talk about it here a second.
I'm just looking at PFF scouting report right here. You know, basically the biggest, not even issue. I don't want to call it an issue, but the hot take on him is starter potential, but definitely raw right now. This guy is going to be a project. They talk about pad level footwork, his hand movement, getting the punch in there, things that he'll probably need a season or so to kind of get into his NFL playing shape. Kind of similar to Rasheed Walker, like you talked about, Clayton. You know, that's a guy that came in here kind of raw. We, took a flyer on him, and he proved to be really, really serviceable for us there at the left tackle position. So I look at Belton, and I'm kind of thinking similarities there in their games. I don't have an age on him. Do we have an age on him, anyone? Because I know, according to PFF, it's a secret.
Anything else on him, Jeff?
6-year prospect.
Like Coach highlighted, I love the fact he's a basketball guy.
Yeah. All right, cool. Emilio, what do you think, man?
I don't know. Jacob likes the way he dribbles up and down the court. I mean, that's all that matters, man. I'm sure Travis would give him a good fight, though.
There it is.
One-on-one.
We can't talk about a tackle prospect without Travis Glover being mentioned.
Hey, give him that full off season in Green Bay.
Oh, I love it, man. Love it. All right, so anything else in the chat here we got before we move on? We're going to be starting the next hour here in just a second. I just want to clean up as we go here. Paul Smith. I don't know if you guys hit this or not while I was writing notes down over here. Drew Kendall, center, Boston College, seems like a late round or an undrafted free agent. Goody guy for sure. Where do we have him at, Emilio?
Kendall is 209.
209.
Strong game. Yeah, PFF 22, 173, 23, 52, 24, 12. PFF big board had him at 278, and consensus had him at 222.
Got it. And I had a couple people reach out about this board. Every time we show it on the screen, it never fails. I get an email or something. People, hey, where's that board at? In the Patreon group, Emilio actually created a separate chat, and all it's titled to is that chat. What did you just say? PTA Big Board, right?
Yeah.
Draft board or whatever. If you go in there, and we'll go ahead and update that tonight if we can.
Yeah, I can do that. I can do that tonight.
We'll try to keep it updated for you all as we move along. But you just click on that, right? That link in there, and that'll take you directly to the Excel sheet where you've got access to it. So,
courtesy of Excelio, right?
Excelio, that's correct, sir.
We're pushing 556 names on the board right now.
And let's take a updated look at the targets here real quick. Guys, anywhere you see a target emoji on our draft board when you're in there looking at it, what that means is those players have been scheduled for a top 30 visit with the Packers, or they've already been in-house for a top 30 visit. Okay, so the top-rated prospect that the Packers have met with on our board is in the 12th spot, James Pierce Jr. Then you got Shamar Stewart, 15th. Then you got Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver, is in the 19th spot. If you're wondering why I'm saying 19 when it says 20 over here, there's that first row is just a placeholder. So just subtract one. That's your true value there. We got Mikel Williams, edge defender out of Georgia, in the 22 spot. Offensive tackle Josh Simmons in the 24 spot. In the 26 spot, we got Savone Revel, cornerback out of East Carolina. And then outside of what we consider first-round range, we got Matthew Golden in the 37 spot. I think I'm the only person on the face of the earth whose draft board has Matthew Golden outside of the first round. And that's not a mock draft prediction. That's just where he grades out. He's the 37th best prospect according to our board. And then in the 40 spot, you've got TJ Sanders, defensive tackle out of South Carolina. In the 112 spot, you got Jacob Bayer, center out of Arkansas State.
Kansas.
126, you got Isaiah Bond, wide receiver out of Texas. And then 145, you've got Anthony Belton, the guy that we just talked about. So behind him, Dalton Cooper, offensive tackle, Esapo, offensive tackle. You can see what they're doing here, guys. They're thinking late in the draft, let's go draft or sign UDFAs that are high upside potential on offensive tackles that maybe have hit a little snag or their draft stock isn't quite as high, I think that's what they're doing there with those offensive tackles. And Jacob Bayer is an interesting.
That's bargain bin shopping.
Yeah, it really is. It is, man.
That Stetson didn't come out of the bargain bin, though. That's high quality right there.
And when you look at those three late-round players, Anthony Belton, Dalton Cooper, and Esapo, the one that sticks out to me the most is Dalton Cooper. You see that -5, that's in the RAS column. That means he scored a 9+ RAS. So he's definitely the most athletic of the bunch, although we just read off Anthony Belton. That dude's as durable as they come. So it's going to be interesting.
Have you guys heard about have you heard about Jacob Bayer, what he likes to do too with some of his just eccentricities or whatever?
No.
So
he likes dyeing that big old mullet, that rag ahead. He likes dyeing it different colors. So between him and Katan Oladapo, can you imagine some of the Dennis Rodman type, sweet flow we'd have going?
Danny Stutzman's another one that does that too, by the way.
Does he?
And the Packers met with him. I think that's it. We're just trying to get the rainbow bright look in here, man. Let's get as many different colors of hair as we can in the locker room. I'm all about it.
Let's go. Both sides of the ball, right?
We're going to end hour one on the Rainbow Bright comment. For those of you listening on the pod, we will see you on the other side. We're going to talk defensive tackle room. We're going to talk cornerback room. And, how weak or strong are those rooms, and is it a real need for us? We're going to talk about that on hour two. We appreciate y'all.
For those of you listening on the pod.
All right, welcome in hour two. Let's I thought it would be cool to kind of dive into some of the position rooms. I think you actually suggested this too, Jacob. You had mentioned, hey, why don't we talk some of the position rooms here? And since we already talked a little technique just a second ago, why don't we lead off with defensive tackle room? Is that cool with you guys?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's do it. So let's take a deep dive into the current defensive tackle room. I think it's good to get a little refresher before the draft gets here so we know exactly what we got in the room. Sometimes you sign a couple low-key players or people don't understand that, or, it slipped past me 1,000 times where it's like, oh, I didn't know that dude was on the roster because they got signed to a futures contract or something like that. So Let's take a look at the entire room here, which there's Devontae White just absolutely peeling Will Levis's cap in that Tennessee game. So Said, let's take a deep dive into the Green Bay Packers' current interior defensive line room as of April 7th, 2025. The Packers have assembled a mix of veterans, young contributors, and untested depth at this critical position, tasked with stopping the run and pressuring quarterbacks from the interior. In 2024, Green Bay's defense excelled, ranking second in the NFL in run defense by allowing just 4.0 yards per carry, while their 45 sacks placed them eighth league-wide. A strong showing.
Can you say that again? Read that line again for all these haters out there.
Green Bay's defense excelled, ranking second in the NFL in run defense by allowing just 4.0 yards per carry, while their 45 sacks placed them eighth league-wide. A strong showing under Jeff Hafley's 4-3 scheme with a one-gap principle.
Top 10 defense, baby. Let's go.
Seriously, it legit is. It's a top 10 defense, just like our offense was a top 10 offense. Just wild that we – anyway, the interior line anchored the run-stopping prowess, though its pass rush impact leaned on a few key contributors. Here's a breakdown of the key players, their roles, strengths, challenges, and the overall state of the room based on the latest available information, including their 2024 defensive PFF grade. So just want to mention, again – if you go back and watch Chalk Talk all year, we talked about how they weren't really thinning their ears back. You could tell there was we didn't really notice until about halfway through the year, like, whoa, they're really putting emphasis on stopping the run this year, as opposed to just trying to get after the quarterback. And it played a big role in them winning 11 games. So key players in the interior defensive line. I sorted them by PFF grade. I'm not saying that's like absolutely great. Just I thought let's go off of that as kind of a base, and then we'll see how everybody feels about it in between here. And I tried to get the stats as accurate as possible. If you guys see a mistake, just let me know, and we'll get the article edited. So Devontae Wyatt was the highest graded interior defensive lineman. You guys remember us talking earlier in the offseason about we need a 3-tech. We need a 3-tech. When many people were screaming, Rashawn Gary sucks. We need an edge. We need an edge. We were going, let's get that 3-tech of the future as soon as possible. And it just so happens this draft is absolutely loaded with it. So, what is this right here? Elijah Gwynn. Nah. Hold up. Pressure rate, though. Don't come at me with the – so we're not allowed to talk about sacks now.
No, I think he's agreeing. He's saying still top 10
Okay,
D half as a dog.
Right,
I think he's saying basically –
And
you almost –
I'm pretty sure Clayton just turned red right there.
because all year long we were talking about, man, pressure pick.
Yep.
Xavier McKinney are picking these passes off because we're getting pressure on the quarterback, right? I know we're not getting a bunch of sacks. Well, you got to be able to finish. We need sacks. Fred McFarley, quick trigger on Clay. You got that right, man. This was an interesting year, man. And when you see the end result, you go, damn, we were right. We got berated all year long, and we were right about this. So it's just unbelievable. Anyway, 66.4. Rotational 3-tech. Pass rush.
Like, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry, dude. We're good.
You're good. You're good, man. You're on the home team. We know that now. 2024 performance. The 2022 first-round pick, 28th overall, progressed in his third year, playing in 14 games with 5 starts. He recorded 23 tackles, eyelid tackles. I don't know what the heck that is. That's a typo on my part. 5 sacks and 9 tackles for a loss, leading the interior with pressure. So obviously he got 5 sacks on the interior. That was the most of anybody on the team. His strengths are explosive burst and agility. He's the group's top pass rusher, thriving in Hafley's aggressive front. Challenges. Run defense needs refinement with occasional gap discipline slips. His PFF grade reflects solid but not elite play. His contract status, he's still under his rookie deal through 2025 with a 5th-year option for 2026. I wanted to put the RAS up because we're shopping in the draft for a 3-tech. So let's look at the precedent of what kind of 3-techs have we drafted. Again, when you hear the threshold guys, it's all Goody would never draft anybody that's less than an 8 RAS, right? We'll talk about that here in a second. Here's Devontae Wyatt. 9'5" is the RAS, 6'2", 304 pounds, okay? Look at his reach, too, arm length. When they say it's got to be 33 inches, we took Devontae Wyatt with 32.5-inch arms, basically. His 40-yard dash, 4.77, 20-yard split, 2.73, 10-yard split, 1.60, all those in the 9s. So he's definitely was a quick twitch, you know what I mean? Quick twitch, just pass rushing defensive tackle, right? Composite agility grade was good. His shuttle being a 4.63, his 3-cone was a 7.45. And he had a broad jump of 9.03, although the vertical was a little low there at 20 inches. Does that surprise you guys with Devontae Wyatt's RAS card? Is that kind of what y'all were expecting there?
What surprises me is that 4.7740. I mean, that's
Quick, boy.
that's quick, dude.
Didn't he
For
run
being
with the linebackers? Because he was
Did he?
fast for the D-line?
Did he really? I think I remember honestly something like that happening.
remember.
So almost 6'3", over 300 pounds, and the guy runs. 4.77 is not slow, dude. I mean that's beating most tight ends in this draft right now.
Yeah, definitely.
That's crazy.
All right. So there you go. Devontae Wyatt, former first-round pick, 959 RAS. The next highest graded player is Carl Brooks with a 62.3. Rotational defensive tackle, situational pass rusher. 2024 performance, a 2023 sixth-round pick. Brooks played all 17 games, tallying 24 tackles, 3.5 sacks, and 4 tackles for a loss. And don't forget the block kick too, right? So
Yep.
got to throw that in there. He's a high-effort rotational piece. Strengths, relentless motor and gap penetration. He's effective on stunts and twists. That sounds like Jacob at the office. Undersized. He's 6'3", 296. He gets pushed around by bigger linemen in the run game. His PFF grade shows depth level production. Contract status under a rookie deal through 2026. Now look at the RAS. When the threshold guys come after you this year saying that Goody won't draft one of these guys that don't have an 8+ RAS, look at this. 5.87. He was our second highest graded defensive tackle on the team. The big thing there, 6'3", 303 at the combine, 28 bench reps, pretty solid. A 40-yard dash of 508 at that weight isn't horrible, but definitely didn't line up in the green. His shuttle was bad. His vertical was bad, right? But what is it? Look at his arm length, 31.5 inches.
I was going to say, look at the arm length. That's
What would you say his strength is on the RAS card when you look at that? It's tough, right?
Yeah.
So again,
his 3-cone.
Exactly. When the threshold gods come after you on Twitter, just remind them of Carl Brooks. Okay, so there he is. Next is Kenny Clark. This is the big disappointment, man. And listen, I think Kenny's a great guy. I think he's a great leader. I think that's one of the reasons why they gave him the contract. You guys remember what we said on this show 2 years ago? I think you should let him test free agency. If you can get him back on a deal, great. If not, let's move on. Goody's seen it totally different, giving him that 3-year extension. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I understand player evaluation better than Brian Gutekunst, but the writing was kind of on the wall for this type of production. And when they're double teaming him, that's why I kind of looked at what Kenny did last year as a plus because, hey, he's at least occupying a +1 hat count. The problem is that cap hit was so dang high. It's like, how can you justify paying him that much money for that kind of role? But 3 technique defensive tackle, defensive line anchor. Obviously, when you hear the word defensive line anchor, think one tech. Think of that guy that's going to anchor against the run in those base packages, right? 2024 performance, the veteran leader played all 17 games, recording 37 tackles, 1 sack, and 4 tackles for a loss. His lower PFF grade might reflect a focus on run defense over pass rush impact. I did not tell it to put that in there. The AI picked up on that. You could see it firsthand all year long. Strengths, power, and experience. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler in 2019, 21, and 23, who remains a run-stuffing force. Challenges. At 29, his sack production dropped significantly, suggesting a shift in role or declining explosiveness. His grade is below his usual standard. Contract status, signed a 3-year, $64 million extension in 2024, locked in through 2027. Now, we talked about this. You could move on from him after next year. You could. After this coming season if you wanted to. I just don't think Goody's going to. I think Goody really likes Kenny Clark. Now, former first-round pick. This was Ted Thompson, though, right, guys? Am I thinking right?
He is the last of the Mohicans, the last Ted Thompson draft pick on the team.
Got it. Okay. So his RAS card, a 7.54, and we took him in the first round. So thought that was interesting. 6'2", 314, 29 bench reps, 40-yard dash of 506, shuttle of 462, and the explosion grade was poor. So, listen, I think in his prime, I think when we got the most out of Kenny, this goes hand in hand with what we're talking about. Ryan Schlipp, I will always credit him for this because this was before I was podcasting on his network. I heard him say on his podcast that Kenny hasn't been good since he had Mike Daniels lining up with him. And it hit me that day, and I was like, is that true? And I went back and looked. I'm like, I'll be damned. That's spot on. Like that's when he really shined that year, was because what we're talking about is you get 2 good defensive tackles and they can't double them both. And whichever one ain't being doubled, they better eat. This year, Devontae Wyatt was the guy who got more pressures, more sacks than Kenny because Kenny was eating up more doubles. And they realized that and just, hey, let's just keep Kenny in the 3 or in the 1 tech. Let's kick Devontae Wyatt over on the 3, and that should free up Gary a little bit. Well, they started chipping on Gary. Now what happens? You got to look at Preston Smith and go, bro, you got to get pressure on the quarterback. Lo and behold, we cut Preston Smith loose, and the writing was on the wall.
Yeah, and your time to shine.
There you go. I think LVN's going to surprise people this year. I just got a feeling. I just got a really, really good feeling about LVN. I really do. So, what do you guys think about that RAS card there with Kenny? And in terms of like running it through the filter of the draft that we got coming up here.
I think it's something to consider just in case the dude doesn't have a -5 on the board or a 9-0 that, if it's, they were talking, DJ and Buck were talking, if it's a scheme fit, it's a scheme fit. It's just when you're scouting players, they're just saying, is this player good? Do I like him a lot? But looking at a scheme fit, it's a different scenario. Like, hey, is this guy going to perform well? Is he going to function well in our, wide zone boot, whatever, double, duo, power. So I think that, it's kind of a double-headed sword there.
I'm a little bit, I guess it would give me more hope that the way that Goody drafts compared to what Thompson did. I don't think that Goody would take Kenny Clark in the first round. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
I don't think that his measurables, I think the RAS would completely stop him from that even thought process. And
Right.
At this point, having been able to be a armchair quarterback, looking back at the last 7-8 years of production, I think we have enough information to say, okay, maybe that wasn't the best selection in the first, but going forward, I still do think that we have seen some of the upside, the ceiling that Devontae Wyatt could have because of the fact that his RAS, I believe, was a lot more, you know what I mean? He just is kind of that quick twitch 3-tech type pass rusher. If he can develop his game into a more well-rounded type guy, that could end up being a really good pick still in another 2-3 years, even next year. You know what I mean? It's not like it's already done.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, United Bates and everybody here in the chat. He says he hasn't missed a game in the last 3 seasons, and that's important, man. We talk about availability, accountability. It really is. He said he had back injury that caused him to miss a preseason game in 23, but played all 17 regular season games. AFAM said Kenny looked very slow after the first step. Chris says, "Rip Kenny, amazing career, Packers Hall of Fame?" ? What do you guys think? You think Kenny's a
No.
I think Jacob's a little more strict than most fans are with Packers Hall of Fame title. I think you are. To me, it's like I have a hard time with the Packers Hall of Fame because it's like, what's the criteria? You know what I mean? Like, you got to have some kind of guideline. It doesn't seem like there's really one there because there's several players I think should be in, and there's been a couple that's winning. I'm like, I loved him as a player, but are we saying he's the best to ever suited up for the Packers? I don't know. What do you guys think about it? Do you think Kenny Clark, if he retired today, should he be in the Packer Hall of Fame? Jacob, I think we know your answer. No,
I'm on the fence. I'm not as convinced as Jacob is either way, but yeah, I'm on the fence with Kenny. Let's see how he does in 2025, right?
Yeah,
right. I do love that he's been on this.
It's maybe it.
Oh, Jacob.
Go ahead. Go.
No, I was just saying, I do love that he's been on the team his whole career and that, he hasn't left us out to dry. Like the dude fights for us, plays for us through different DCs when it was Fire Joe Barry season, when it was Jeff Hafley's a man season. So let's get him a Super Bowl. And I would say we could probably bring him up there. But as of right now, I would say maybe not.
Got it.
That's a great point. If we could end this season or end his career with him getting a Super Bowl this year, I would totally be able to be talked into it way more easily. But in the chat, if you could let us know, just say yes or no. Does Kenny Clark, if he were to end his career today as a Green Bay Packer, deserve to be in the Packers Hall of Fame? Yes or no? I want to see that.
And while they're getting their answers in, Tim, we got breaking news here, sir.
Uh-oh.
Our Aaron Rodgers, not the Aaron Rodgers, said, we got breaking news. Packers top 30 visit Florida cornerback Jason Marshall per Easton Butler. Thank you for that, Aaron. Appreciate you dropping that news in here on us. And, let's I I don't want to shift gears completely, but I want to know where he's at on our board, Emilio.
338.
Woo-wee. So another
237 on the PFF big board.
He was 182, Tim.
Wow, so he's fallen a little bit.
I wonder why. That's interesting. You guys will get that tomorrow. We'll do a full breakdown on that top 30 visit there with Jason Marshall out of Florida. There's got to be something there, right? Definitely got to be something there. So, all right, let's see what everybody was answering about Kenny. And again, Aaron, thank you for that information, buddy. Appreciate that. Looks like in the chat it's a little mix. Chuck Jagger says no. Greg Rice says no. AFAM says yes. Tony Holman, no relation to Tom Holman, says on the fence. It's funny that he said on the fence. AFAM says first ballot. Wes Robb says yes. Chuck Goodman says no, but close. I think that's where I'm at, Chuck. I really do, man. Deadfish says yes. Mrs. Green said everybody shut up and listen. Packer Hall of Fame, yes. Canton, absolutely not. There you go.
Facts.
Holmes says no. Doug says no. Looks like it's pretty unanimous. Everybody's saying no, aren't they? So, yeah, I think I would be kind of like Tim on the fence, but in the end, I would have to say no. So, all right, there's your Kenny Clark talk of the day. Let's move on to the next player here. Kobe Wooden, PFF grade 50. Yeah. Rowe, developmental defensive tackle, depth piece, 2024 performance. The 2023 fourth-round pick appeared in 13 games, mostly on passing downs, with 20 tackles, 0 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss. His strengths is athleticism with a 4.79 40-yard dash and versatility. He's a raw talent with potential. Challenges, light for the interior at 6'4", 278, and unpolished. He's often overpowered in run defense. His PFF grade highlights his struggles, contract status under a rookie deal through 2026. Look at the RAS card, though, boys. He's in the RAS Hall of Fame here with a 9.25, coming in at 6'4", 273, 23 bench reps. But, boy, that composite speed grade was elite, 4.79 40. And then, of course, a great composite agility grade there, too, with the shuttle of 4.52, 3-cone of 7.49 with a broad jump of 9.52 as well. Go ahead, Jake. What you got, man?
Have you ever seen a weight grade of 0.75? They didn't give homie a full point.
Yeah,
they said, you are tiny, sir.
We'll get on a plane right now and let's get you to Culver's. We need you to drop into Culver's. And this is a perfect example, right? If his RAS was in the 7s, he probably falls to the 5th or 6th. But because you got that RAS card, the Underwear Olympics, and he just hasn't lived up so far. And now, Tim, he's been a little banged up too, I believe, right?
Yeah.
It feels like he's been injured a lot too. So,
yeah, can't make the club in the tub, right? PFF, we don't know their formula, but certainly last season the production grade was pretty low. So hopefully he takes a step this year.
Good eye there from Deadfish. Long arms, 33 3/4 inch arms. It's not everything, is it, Emilio?
Nope. No, it's the only thing. The arm length is the only 33.
How about these hands?
33 inches, all they care about. But no, it's a lot of green. But like Jacob said, man, we need to get that man bulked up, get him on some whey protein.
There you go. All right,
take him over to Crow's West for a butter burger, right?
There you go, man. Hey, I know I'm gonna be hitting that place up while we're in town. Lord have mercy. That's what
I didn't have it last time. You have to show me, Tim.
Bro, the only thing that's pissing me off about this entire trip is my ultimate goal was to try to buy my way in somehow, some way to get Emilio into a stadium tour, and they're not doing any stadium tours to the best of my knowledge.
That's all right.
We'll get
we'll just have to go to another game. That's fine.
That's it. Yeah. But it's going to be awesome, man, going up there. And I had Trucker John reach out to me, a couple other people. Hey, what's the plan? When are we meeting up? We need to try to get together in the Patreon group, probably. Everybody who's going, just throw in the general chat, hey, I'm going. And we'll try to pick a day that makes sense for we're going to be there all 3 days. Now, during the draft, we're going to be doing our draft show back at the house that we rented. So we're going to be doing the draft show then. So we'll be hanging out at the festivities during the day. But on day 3, I'm pretty sure we're not going to do a show until after the draft is over. So we're going to be hanging out over there all day at day 3. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So you guys just let us know in the Patreon group, or like I said, you can email us, whatever. Let us know what your plans are. We'll make sure that we get to meet up. I can't wait to meet Trucker John, though, man. Trucker John has been an avid listener of the show and dealt with some health issues and stuff. And there's nothing I enjoy more than texting back and forth with old Trucker John. No doubt about it. So looking forward to get a chance to meet him. Up next, Nesta Jade Silvera,
Tim,
PFF grade 44.2. What's that, Jacob?
I'm just asking for a who?
There it is. Rotational nose tackle. I think they seen TJ Slayton leaving the Packers. They said we better get a big body in here just in case we don't fill that void, right? Rotational nose tackle, run stuffing, depth. 2024 performance acquired in 2024 after playing 7 games with the Raiders, where he recorded 8 tackles, 0 sacks, 0 tackles for a loss. That's a hell of a stat line. Limited impact with Green Bay. Strength, size 6'2", 315, and strength. He holds his ground against the run, challenges minimal pass rush impact, and slow feet limit his role. His low PFF grade underscores his limitations. Contract status, likely a 1-year deal or a futures contract set for free agency in 2026 unless extended. When you look at his RES card here, a 6.56. The only thing that really sticks out is the 10-yard split. Pretty good quickness there with scoring an 8.11 on a 1.73 10-yard split. The overall 40-yard dash was a 5.16. His broad jump, a 9.02. Other than that, really everything just kind of meh across the board, right? So I think this is a practice squad body too, to be honest with you. And the reason I wanted to highlight all of these guys, including James Esther, we'll get into him right now, no PFF grade, practice squad / depth defensive tackle, 2024 performance, undrafted free agent. He spent most of the year on the practice squad, logging under 50 snaps and spot appearances. His strengths, a decent frame at 6'3", 305, and effort. He's a project with some tools. Challenges raw and unproven. He's yet to make an impact. No PFF grade due to minimal play. Contract status, signed to a futures contract for 2025, fighting for a roster spot. His RAS card, a 4.12. So when you look at the whole reason we wanted to cover this, where are the strong points in the defensive tackle room, right? Where are the weak spots? And how many voids do we have open? How many roster spots do we have open on here? Okay, so if we go back up and count them off one more time, Devontae Wyatt is going to be on this roster. We know this, right?
Yep.
Kenny Clark's going to be on this roster.
Carl Brooks
is going to be on this roster, right? Kobe Wooden, to me, he's kind of on the chopping block, to be honest with you. So that's 3, right? So that's 3 that we got. If we counted Kobe, let's say 3, possibly 4. But
his seat's getting a little warm, though. It's getting warm.
Do you already count Slayton obviously being gone? Like, is that another full
absolutely? Yeah. Well, I mean,
that might be what's keeping Colby Wooden in the mix right now.
That's what I was going to say, right?
But though, with TJ Slayton's role being more of a nose tackle, Colby Wooden doesn't even fit that, right? So, so essentially, you could say you got 4 right now, right? So, how many do you want to carry? I wonder how many we carried breaking camp last year. I should know that number right offhand. If you guys can find it, it might be a little bit difficult to find it. But if you look at the initial 53-man roster, I imagine it was probably 4 to 5. It might have been 6, but let's say you've got at least one spot open, right? The void that TJ Slayton's leaving. So I say that because we know in the past, if we had a position that we felt like the Packers needed, they're going to double dip in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially if it's a deep draft, like the 20 D tackles that are supposed to go on 3 downs, Clay.
I was just going to – Amelia, what do you think about the fact that, like Ben Holden says, obviously we lost Slayton, but then I forgot. Remember Jonathan Ford? People always wondered, like, why do they keep him on the roster? Because he is a massive – probably the closest thing we had at the time to a true nose. You know what I mean? A zero tech. So, like, do you think that – and this is for anybody that wants to chime in. I really do. Like, you talked about how Goody's been sort of taking the top 30 visits for the top of the draft and the back of the draft. It wouldn't surprise me if he starts all of a sudden you start bringing in some very sizable D tackles towards that end of the draft, that maybe he's trying to go for a Walter Noel, a Harmon, a Grant, whatever it could be in the first round or the second round, and then coming back around in rounds 4, 5, 6, 7 to try to find another big honking hog molly that you plug in there at the zero tech and just stand there and just try to stand. Don't let them go forward.
Williams, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at the top 30 visits, we have not met with any defensive tackles other than TJ Sanders,
Collins.
right?
Isn't Collins?
Not a top 30 visit, right?
Oh,
okay. I miss that one? Yeah, we're just strictly talking top 30 now. Met with them in general, with the cheese emoji here, there's several. Walter Nolan being one, Kenneth Grant being one. So if you're sitting there looking at how many spots are there going to be to fill, I think there's two, me personally. Yep. I think if the board falls just right, you can draft 2 defensive tackles in the draft and feel good about both of them making the roster. Easy peasy, right? So if Kenneth Grant's there at 23, he's in play. Walter Nolan I'm telling you, if Walter Nolan is the pick at 23, y'all going to see me lose my mind. That's one of those dudes. He's in the 18 spot on our board. Greg Cosell said he's the best defensive tackle in this draft. You got to be able to rush with power. We fall in love with speed and agility and this and that, but in the interior, when you got he calls him a true power 3 tech, is what he says. So Walter Nolan is like the dude I want there, even more so than Kenneth Grant, albeit Kenneth Grant higher on our board. I'd be okay with that as well. Next on that list, it goes down to TJ Sanders, right? Is next. And we've actually had a top 30 visit with him. So if you're kind of just reading between the lines here and how top 30 visits work, they may end up scheduling a top 30 visit with Walter Nolan and Kenneth Grant. That may end up happening. But they may already look at them and go, oh, yeah, if they're on the board, we'd be okay with taking them, no problem, right? Because how high they are on the board there. Now, when you get down to TJ Sanders, it's like, hey, can we qualify him for the 23rd pick? That's kind of what that feels like. Because It seems like he'll be gone when we get to 54. So that's kind of the thought process I'm having. Alfred Collins, we met with, not a top 30 visit, but we met with him. He's in the 47 spot. So that's another one there. So what you essentially got when you look at the Packers draft board in terms of who they've met with, whether it was the Combine, Pro Days, East-West Shrine Games, Senior Bowl, whatever, Kenneth Grant and Walter Nolan are at the top. Then you got TJ Sanders and Alfred Collins on the next tier, okay? And then it drops down to Aeneas Peebles and CJ West. You see what I'm saying? So you got like these little groupings of 2.
Yeah.
If you've got if the first swing you get at one of these 3 techs ends up being, TJ Sanders or Alfred Collins, I can't expect them to have a huge impact on any year. Now again, it doesn't mean that they're not going to go after Derek Harmon or somebody else. Okay. So let's go ahead and remove that off the board there. And let's look at all the 3 techs, not just the ones that the Packers had met with. So you got Mason Graham at the 4 spot, right? We've got Kenneth Grant in the 14 spot we talked about. You got Walter Nolan in the 18 spot. Then you got Derek Harmon in the 25 spot. So I would be okay with Derek Harmon at 23 as well. And who knows? It kind of feels like he's primed for a top 30 visit. I don't know how you guys feel about that. The fact they haven't met with him at all, at least it wasn't reported. What do you guys think about that? Do you think they'll maybe schedule a top 30 with Derek Harmon, get him in-house soon?
I would hope so.
Yeah. I mean, Ed Madden, John's son, pretty sure. Goody said Goody was at all 3 DT's pro days, being Nolan, Grant, and Harmon. So maybe he saw enough where he was like, all right, I don't even, I like what I see kind of thing. Real quick, too, Prince was talking about how Wooden had added nearly 20 pounds of bulk before the last season move. And before I forgot it, Holmes was saying Nolan is light for a nose tackle. We're not talking a 1 tech or a 0 tech nose tackle. We're talking 3 tech here. So that was, if we got that a little bit jumbled there, that's not what we meant there. But what would you say, Clayton, while I'm asking this question, if you could find where what you consider the highest nose tackle would be on your board? And here's a fun fact that was shared by CFB Home. It's a crazy but true statistic that there was a 310-pound difference between the largest and smallest prospects in this year's NFL draft, with the largest being Desmond Watson, the Florida D tackle, at 464 pounds, and Mr. Tez Johnson, the Oregon slot receiver, at 154 pounds. I'll say that again. There's a difference between 310 pounds between.
I'm just going to leave that on the screen there for a second. There you go.
Yeah, Lord.
Look at that Jordan logo stitched on it. He's screaming. He's screaming right now. I'm telling you right now, man. As soon as I seen his legs, I seen them knees, I said, I'd like to eat dinner at his grandmama's house.
Yeah. Them shorts are holding on for dear life, for sure.
Yeah. Hear them. If you listen real close, they're going.
Squeaking. Grease joints and everything got zerk fittings on it. Yeah.
Exactly.
But look, I was looking at the board. We have 14 rows for our targets. So 14 out of the 30, or the 14 out of the top 30 visits have occurred, as we know of. So we're about halfway there.
So we just got 16 left, huh?
Yep.
16. That's going to be interesting, man, because defensive tackle, we've only had one in-house, right?
Yep.
Did you see this?
Respect Oranges. When he was born, he was given a girth certificate instead of a birth certificate. Tim, what's up with all this fat shaming in here, sir?
I don't
These
know.
are your people, Tim. What's wrong with them?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Tim's not fat. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the chat. I didn't say
Oh,
Tim.
gotcha.
I said it's his people in here in the chat. He loves the chat. Could tell you how
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
something you posted in the chat, and I could just see Tim's ears turn red. It's hilarious. So, yeah, I think you've got to have at least a couple 3 techs pop up on this top 30 visit chart soon, really, really soon. So, Emilio, why don't we sort it? I'm going to sort it by tier here real quick and just show everybody this. This is really cool. Something else that Emilio added in. So when we talk about tiers, we got it in increments of 5s, right? So
Abdul jumped up there.
He did. You know why? Greg Cosell talking about Abdul Carter. Yeah. First time I heard Greg Cosell talk about him, I'm like, I can't give him a bonus based off what he said. And then hearing him talk about him today, it was almost just like he's like, everybody knows he's the best edge defender in this draft.
Right.
You know? And it was like, and he did talk about numerous positives. I'm like, I'm gonna give him a 3 there. That
right.
kind of sounds.
But I don't want to waste time I want to go over other prospects because he's so good. We're just going to put him over to the side.
So in tier 1 of this draft, with minus scores, with that being a good thing, right? Ashton Gianti, running back out of Boise State, hands down the best prospect. Abdul Carter, edge defender out of Penn State, is the second best prospect. Then you go down to the next tier, and you got Travis Hunter out of Colorado, and then Mason Graham, defensive tackle. Okay. Then when you get in, so you notice in the top 2 tiers, there's 2 in the top, 2 in the second tier, and now you're starting to get a cluster. When we talk about cluster busters, this is what you call a cluster. You've got, what is that, 5 players in tier 3, okay? And it's labeled tier 5 because that's the points that are attached, right? So with that being said, Jacob's out here. He said, I'm done with this talk.
Yep.
In the 5 spot, in that third tier of ours, you got Ted McMillan, Will Campbell, Cam Ward, Armand Membo, and Ty Warren, okay? Then in the next tier, there's only 3 in it. Cornerback Will Johnson, Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan, and then James Pierce Jr., edge defender out of Tennessee. So it kind of feels like you don't have a very realistic shot at any of those players. Maybe James Pierce Jr., but if that happens, I think we would all agree it's because people have character concerns, right? That's what that's going to end up being if he falls that far, in my opinion. Then in the next tier, look at this cluster here, boys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players in this cluster. So you've got Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle out of Texas. And then keep in mind, James Pierce Jr., 1 tier higher, we did do a top 30 visit with. So you got to mention that. Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle out of Texas. Then we got Kenneth Grant, 3 tech out of Michigan. Then Shamar Stewart, edge defender out of Texas A&M. We had a top 30 visit with him. Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas. Shador Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado. Walter Nolan, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. And Mike Green, edge defender out of Marshall. We got the purple box on Mike Green because there are some character concerns there. So with that being said, you feel pretty good about having a realistic shot at maybe a player or 2 out of this tier right here.
Yep.
That could be available come draft night. If that were the case, maybe who's 2 or 3 in that tier that I would hope like heck they would be available. I think Tim would definitely say Jahdae Barron, right, Tim?
Yeah, I like Jahdae Barron on the defensive side, and Calvin Banks out of Texas has been growing on me lately too. So, and of course, I like Kenneth Grant.
Yeah. Tim, I watched the ESPN featured draft thing on Kelvin Banks. As he went through a lot with his mom and still kept playing on the field. You know, dealing with off the field issues, things. And I mean, just what a guy. So I love that pick. I think Goody would still take the freak Shamar Stewart and run it up there.
Yep.
And Walter. I mean, I'm going to take it from Clay, but I'll say Walter.
Yeah. For me, if I had to pick 2 out of that whole group right there, it would be Walter Nolan and Jahdae Barron. That's who I would like to have out of that tier. So you can do like these mini drafts within these tiers. That's what's cool about it, right?
Yeah.
You can kind of look at
and Clay, that's exactly what DJ and Buck do. That's how you got to get the cluster buster. So that's what we've talked about this whole year. Like, hey, we need to figure out how we're going to be able to break up and make a decision when we're inside a range. And I just like seeing how you see the cheese kind of really light up as you hit the tiers that were around pick range and targets as well.
Yeah, and the captains too. You know.
Yep.
Another really cool aspect. So when we get into the next tier, let's pretend every prospect above that, and we'll get ready to wrap up, but every prospect above this from tier 15 up, let's say they're all gone. So we have to choose in tier 20. We have our pick of the litter here. Here are the prospects in this next tier. Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State. Jahad Campbell, linebacker out of Bama. Michael Williams, edge defender out of Georgia. Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia. Josh Simmons, offensive tackle out of Ohio State. Derek Harmon, 3-tech out of Oregon. Boys, I don't think it's a coincidence that as soon as you get in that range where it's like, okay, these guys are going to be available when we pick, we've got the most top 30 visits cluster right here. And those top 30 visits are Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver, Ohio State, Michael Williams, edge defender, Georgia, and Josh Simmons, offensive tackle, Ohio State.
Mm-hmm. And the tiers above are, oh, man, if they fall, we might need to run up the card. Tier that we're in is, hey, all right, here's our probable picks. And then
we better have our information right?
Absolutely.
Yep. So that's why when you look at the wide receiver run here and you look at the tiers, Emeka Egbuka is the one that makes the most sense for us. Mm-hmm. He's our second best receiver on the board. He's right in that tier, right in that range where we're picking. Again, it's not a coincidence that our top 30 visits line up perfectly with this tier on our PTA big board.
You know what I heard, Clay, was they were talking about wide receivers, and they said DJ was talking to a guy, scout or someone in a team department, and he asked him if a receiver and a D tackle are on the board, who are you going to pick? And the guy said, well, if we really need a plug and play D tackle, we can find that in free agency at not a bad price. If we need a wide receiver, you're not finding a good wide receiver fall in free agency. You're not finding unless it's 30, 40, 50 million, $40 million. You're not finding that. That's why they said they might put a little bit more emphasis on a wide receiver in the draft instead of the 3-tech D lineman.
Almost like the wide receivers are having a little bit of that quarterback effect, right? Like they might go a little higher
because the price.
Yep, that's a good point. Because I mean, it is costing $30 to $40 million to sign a receiver in free agency, right? So,
a good
really
one.
Cool how the business of sports, the business of the NFL, ties into the draft, and that's where you get into playing chess, not checkers. You know, it's really cool. So, Tim, what do you think about this grouping here, man? Anybody stick out to you? Again, Emeka Egbuka, Jahad Campbell, Michael Williams, Malachi Starks, Josh Simmons, Derek Harmon.
Yeah, I still like Derek Harmon, and
I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, I'd be okay with it too. And we've talked about Egbuka, right? Clearly, if I'm not talking about Jaden Higgins, I'm probably talking about Egbuka. Malachi Starks, though, the safety out of Georgia. I know everyone's gonna say we don't need a safety, but if you've got an opportunity to, load up on picks and maybe this guy's on the board, maybe he plays a little slot. Maybe he's providing some depth back there. I like Malachi Starks a lot. And Jahad Campbell's another guy out of Bama that I like.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, with this whole cluster right here, this seems like the sweet spot of the cluster. It really does.
I think so.
Look at the injury concerns. Like if you've got a cluster, to me, the top cluster buster for me is injury concerns and character concerns. So if you look at that, Jahad Campbell, he's going to be missing at least a part of the early season. Some people were saying he won't be back till December. Other people were saying, no, he'll be ready for training camp. I don't know how he'll be ready for training camp because they're having that was that labrum, right? If I remember correctly, something like that in his shoulder.
Yeah, shoulder. Yeah.
So Jahad Campbell's got the red box. That's what that means. A major injury in 24. His happened right before the combine, I believe it was. And then Josh Simmons, although they're predicting he's going to be healthy, and we did a top 30 visit, if we were in-house and we were there for that top 30 visit, we would be able to take that red box off. If the Packers doctors got their hands on that knee and said, hey, look, he's good to go, we would remove that, and now we don't have it. Unfortunately, we're just a bunch of idiots over here that think we're learning what we're talking about. So with that being said, we're going to keep the red box up. So I would eliminate those two from that list unless they're the last available, right? If it comes down to all those players are somehow picked, I know numerically it's not possible, but if that were the case and everybody above them were taken and it was just Jahad Campbell and Josh Simmons, then okay, we're drafting one of them. I would be okay with it, you know.
Right.
But yeah, so when you remove that, the list now becomes Emeka Egbuka, right? Michael Williams, both of those top 30 visits. I don't think we would draft Malachi Starks in the first round. I could be wrong, but I think we're pretty well set at safety. And then Derek Harmon. So those are the three that you narrow it down when you go through the cluster buster. So Emeka Egbuka, Michael Williams, and Derek Harmon are like those three that I'm like, man, that's probably most likely the direction we're going to go. If Goody's board lined up this way. And again,
Right.
he may have these guys 2 tiers lower and the people below them 2 tiers even higher. You know, that could be the case. So, yeah. Coach Lynn says, good call, fellas. Packers are on it. Yeah. It's interesting when, as you gather all the information and you guys know how the board's built, we don't cheat the board at all. We refuse to cheat it. It's like, it is what it is. And then when things line up with the visits and stuff, it's really cool to see everything kind of come.
Looking at it like this. I mean, we were talking, line up the emojis, line up the numbers on the side. Where are they at? I'm just excited. I really am excited to see where it kind of lands on draft night. Honestly, I think it's going to be a good time.
Yeah. H.E. Soder with a super chat. Thank you, buddy. He says, out of that group, who do you think can come in and be an immediate impact player in year one? That's a great question. So out of that group right there, the one that sticks out. What's that?
The tier 20 group we're talking?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes, sir. You guys, you choose first, and I'll go after you.
It's either Egbuka or Derek Harmon.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was going to say Egbuka.
Yeah, that's me. Because and it's again, well, he's a rookie wide receiver. He's got to learn the offense. Blah blah blah. Right.
Get the ball in his hands.
What's the scouting report say? It says he would be ideal for a moving Z position, so that would make him and Jaden Reed on the field at the same time will be awesome. He's got good hands, right? And what's the big scouting report on him? Like Greg Cosell said, this dude talks like he's a 10-year vet. He said he is going to be a great football player for 10 to 12 years in the National Football League. And he drew those comparisons to Amon-Ra St. Brown and some other players and things like that. He can play on the outside, especially in a Matt LaFleur type offense. So Emeka Egbuka and Derek Harmon are mine too. If Josh Simmons did not have the red box, I would probably lean toward him a little bit. I'm not as big on Michael Williams. However, the main reason I'm not big on him is because the PFF grade didn't really line up. He was 114th at his position this year, you know. But everybody else, Daniel Jeremiah, Kyle Krabs, Dane Brugler, they're all over him. They love him. So definitely trust Daniel Jeremiah's opinion over my own because that's a dude who's he is a former NFL scout, so he knows what he's talking about for sure. So great question, Soder. That was awesome, man.
Yeah,
awesome.
for sure.
All right, let's get out of here, man. I know we went a little over. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Yeah. So tomorrow we'll get in the cornerback room. I had it on the list tonight, but we got to talking draft board and hitting these tiers. Oh, that's the other thing. We got to get this organized ASAP. We're 2 weeks out from the draft, roughly, right? We have got to get our draft contest set up, okay? So I'm going to keep it real simple. We're going to do some kind of giveaway, and what I want everybody to do in the Patreon group is we're going to create a separate chat, and it's going to be the mock draft contest 2025, okay? You get one mock draft, and you're going to do a full 7-round mock draft for the Packers, screenshot it, put it in there, and we're going to – I'm going to delete comments out of that chat. I'm not trying to be rude, but I just want it to be, hey, here's everybody's submissions. Okay?
Right.
Here's their mock drafts. We could chat, and we got 6 other chats. We can go in there and hang out and talk. I just want to keep that clean. And, again, if you guys want to wait until the very last second, that's probably the right play, you know. Wait till the last second. Or if you feel comfortable, hey, I'm going to go ahead and get it in right now. But we will allow people to enter their mock drafts into that chat as late as the night before. Let's say midnight of the 24th, right? So Thursday when the draft kicks off, midnight, you know,
Wednesday night.
Or 11:59 Wednesday night.
Yep.
Get your mock drafts in, and like I said, we'll do a giveaway there. Also, we're doing a giveaway this Saturday for anybody that's in the Patreon group, a member of the $3 tier. We're going to put their name on the Larry McCarron Pinky Wheel of Fame, and we're going to spin that sucker and give away an autographed Katan Oladapo rookie card.
Let's go! I love it.
A way for us to give back to those who are channels for sure. Ola Home Depot took on a thing of its own last year.
It really did.
That draft party was awesome, though, man. It was a blast.
That was a blast. We lost our minds when he was drafted, right?
Oh my God, man. And he was one of those. That's the other thing that we got to get going too, Emilio, is when Packer Report releases their draft guide. I think tomorrow we're going to go through and get their most perfect threshold fits. We'll remove all the heart eye emojis off the board, and those heart eye emojis will only be who Packer Report's draft guide says those are perfect fits for each position. That way we know that's really narrowed down. So when you get that with the top 30 visit, that's when you got that. All right, these are the guys that are prime. I think we came away with like 7 last year was the total we came away with. We ended up drafting 2 of those 7 players. So, but anyway, I know there's a lot of information we just covered, but everybody make sure you get in line there on the Patreon group in terms of getting yourself entered into that draft contest.
Greg Rice is over here worried about what time it ends. I don't even. Are you even in the Patreon group, Greg? What are you talking about?
And that QR code up there on the right.
Yeah,
there
get yourself in there.
Yeah. The main thing with the mock draft contest is we're not going to take a submission at 8:15.
Right.
Not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like
just cheating at that point.
Yeah, get it in the night before, and that way we can all kind of be, because I care. He says, "All right, we appreciate you caring, man. Appreciate you caring. Caring is sharing, right? Or sharing is caring. I don't know. The smell is bad. What was that? Yeah, y'all ever seen the Zohan? Don't mess with the Zohan.
You don't mess with the Zohan? Yeah, 100 years ago I saw that. Yeah,
such a good movie. It still holds up. Go watch that tonight. So, all right. Tony Holman says, "Hit the like button, or I'm going to come get you." Now, listen. I got to be better about that. All right, you got to listen. I got to start promoting that more. That's the only thing holding the channel back. The people that are coaching me are saying that, like, bro, you got to get out of the way and just say, "Hey, please like the stream, even if you didn't like it, like it." Okay, sounds good. So, all right, we'll see y'all tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Hit that like on the way out. Make sure you check out the Patreon group, man. We're going to have more articles. I'm going to get started on that top 30 visit that just came down the wire. Again, shout out to Aaron Rodgers for giving us that info. Appreciate you. And H.E. Solder, thank you for the super chat. Y'all have a wonderful night. We'll see you tomorrow.
And we go. We out.
Bye, guys.